Hey everybody, Sam Amico, Hoops Wire Live from hoopswire.com here on 330 to go. So happy to be back. So happy that basketball is back. Believe it or not, yes, the Cavaliers are in training camp. Some of you may not see this until they've played a preseason game. I hope you watch it before then because that's Tuesday, October 8th. They play a preseason game against Chicago Bulls at home. Then they've got one 2 nights later, also at home. I believe that's against the Indiana Pacers. Forgive me for not memorizing the schedule. How is everybody? We're in October now, man, which is really my favorite month. Well, second favorite. My favorite month is February because that's my birthday month, and I celebrate it all month. October, though, has always been the start of basketball season. And yes, I dropped that February hint for all of you can start shopping now. It's pretty easy to buy a gift. You can just save it online. Birthday's February 22nd, same day as George Washington. And more importantly, Julius Erving, Dr. J, and also Drew Barrymore. So there's some major celebrities there on February 22nd. Remember that date, which if you're like me, you'll forget in 5 minutes. But October has always signified the start to the NBA preseason. Now, let me say something here, which I'm going to say a lot of somethings, but I'll start with this. When I was a little kid, which feels like 112 years ago, or when George Washington was a little kid, I remember the start in October would mean to me the start of the NBA preseason, training camp. And I felt like the only person in the world who cared about that. I loved the NBA as a little kid. Right away, I loved it. I'm not sure why. I'm short and slow and really not that great in basketball. I can shoot, but I do nothing else. I don't defend. I don't rebound. I certainly don't pass. But anyway, I had an immediate love for the game of basketball and the NBA in particular, because when I was a kid, the NBA was very underground. It was almost like the NHL is now, or even like Major League Soccer is now. And I like both those sports. That's not a shot at them, but I'm just comparing the popularity. It's almost like a niche thing. So when October came around, I felt like with the start of training camps and preseason, I was the only kid in the world paying any attention at all to the NBA. And you know what? Right now, I feel like one of the few people in the world paying attention to the Cavaliers in the NBA. And, the Browns, Cleveland is a Browns town, for better or worse. And lately it's been worse, at least through the first 4 games. I've always been, I thought the Deshaun Watson trade was great. I was a fan of it. I didn't think it was great. I thought the Browns gave up too much, but I thought that he was really going to take them to another level. Now, here we are celebrating last week that Deshaun Watson was just regular bad and not horrifically bad. People are like, oh, that loss last week wasn't Deshaun Watson's fault. Well, he didn't do anything to help the matter either. So, anyway, I digress. So I'm always excited at this time of year. And of course, the Guardians. I mean, how exciting is that? A team that most of us thought was going to be middle of the road, just the season they've had now in the playoffs. So it's understandable that the Cavs are very much under the radar. But I still thoroughly enjoy this time of year. Now it's my job, so I have to, I have to be in touch with it very much, right? Because I got to stay up to date. I'm the one guy I feel like to a lot of my friends and family, like what's going on with the Cavs? They're not paying much attention, so they'll ask me what's going on, and I'm always happy to pretend to know. So that's where we are. But the Cavs have started training camp. Started earlier this week. They're in Bradenton, Florida, which is at IMG Academy, which is kind of just a facility, athletic facility where professional sports teams go to train. and hold their camps. They don't just do the NBA there. Some NFL teams have gone down there. And the Cavs booked this even before Kenny Atkinson became the coach. So he had nothing to do with it. He said that yesterday at practice. I have been tuned in every day. The Cavs are making themselves available every day on Zoom. And I've been on there. I've written dribbles every day after training camp. Probably do the same today. Or I should say after practice. So I've already written 3 dribbles columns on the season. They've had 3 practices. Well, they probably have had 2 days in there, but they've had 3 days of practice, and I've written 3 things of dribbles. So I just feel like, my blood's pumping again after a pretty boring off season for the Cavs, right? I mean, they did nothing beyond hire a coach and make a draft pick, which I've said is fine. I think that's fine as far as winning goes, but didn't do much for me personally. And I know a lot of fans too were kind of like, come on, do something. But, to me, re-signing Donovan Mitchell, re-signing Jared Allen, re-signing Isaac Okoro, re-signing, giving Evan Mobley a contract extension. I think that those were the moves that they thought, you know what, we're gonna bank, and you can hear them talk a lot about continuity and what's the other word I'm looking for? Familiarity. There's a lot of that going on in terms of what they think is going to work, which is why they brought everybody back under a new coach. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh voice. When you're a professional athlete, you just need a fresh voice to kind of take it to another level. Now, let's take a look at the Eastern Conference real fast. Okay, we already had Paul George, excuse me, Paul George going to the Clippers, right? From the Clippers to the Sixers. And then we had Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks. And then we had, before that, you had the Boston Celtics winning the championship. They're bringing everybody back too. So, I mean, right there's 3 teams. But wait a minute now. Then the Knicks, after adding Mikal Bridges, trade for Karl-Anthony Towns with the Timberwolves, which was a bizarre but very, I thought it was a good trade for both teams. I'll touch on the Timberwolves in a second. But, the Knicks get better? Probably. They certainly got better on paper with Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns. Then you throw in OG Anunoby, who they got last year at midseason. And then to me, Jalen Brunson may be the biggest, I was going to say the best point guard in the East. I don't know if he's the most talented, but he may be the biggest winner. The guy just wins. He's a wonderful guy. I've talked to Jalen Brunson, by the way, even though I know Cavs fans probably aren't huge on him. But wonderful guy, plays hard, always a pro. He's probably the best. You got Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns on that team. Jalen Brunson's still your best player and best reason for hope. So, the East is stacked. That's not to mention the Indiana Pacers, who went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. It's not to mention the Orlando Magic, who gave the Cavs all they could handle in the first round of the playoffs and are only going to be better. I think the Milwaukee Bucks will probably pull it together with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard, though I think Lillard's past his prime. That's not an insult because I probably am too. Miami Heat, I know they had a bad year, but they still got Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero and Eric Spoelstra as their coach. Does that leave the Cleveland Cavaliers? ESPN said the Cavs will finish second in the Eastern Conference, ahead of the Sixers and Knicks. And that ESPN counted the Karl-Anthony Towns trade in there. Second in the East, 50 wins. 50 wins probably get you second in the East this year because things are going to be so tight. I don't think there's going to be anybody winning 65 games in the entire NBA because everything's so tight, close, and And it just looks like even, which is what Kenny Atkinson talked about this the other day. He said the NBA is full parity, and that's what the league wants. And he said they're celebrating the parity. And you know what? Most of the people around the league are too, the players and the coaches and the execs. They love the fact that probably 16 teams feel like, you know what, if we pull it together, we can get to the finals. Guarantee you the New Orleans Pelicans are thinking that way, and they have every reason to. We get hot at the right time, we can make a run to the finals. And yes, I just threw out the New Orleans Pelicans because that's the most random team I could think of. But the things are going to be the same out west. Timberwolves now have Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. That's what they got out from the Knicks. And DiVincenzo, I mean, I think Randle takes a lot of flack that he doesn't deserve. I think part of that was playing in New York, the media capital of the world. And I will get to Cavs camp here in a second. But first, I'm giving an NBA rundown. But, you know, I think Randle's a nice player and is going to fit in well there. That team is very clearly the Timberwolves' Anthony Edwards team. He's been on the rise. He's probably going to continue to rise and get even better. And you know, Timberwolves went to the Western Conference Finals last year. And I still thought that the Edwards-Towns dynamic was a little clunky. So at times. Randle's a different player than Towns. He's not the defender. He's not going to protect the rim. He's not as good of a three-point shooter. But, you know, he has his moments and he plays. He's a level just below Towns. And then you got DiVincenzo, who's, you know, coming off a career year of 15.5 points a game with the Knicks. So I won't get too far into that, but you look in the West, Thunder were a huge surprise, finished with the best record. Denver Nuggets, any team with Nikola Jokic is a championship contender. Who else am I missing in there? Obviously, Phoenix Suns, Dallas Mavericks, who went to the finals, added Klay Thompson. Kind of a washed-up Klay Thompson, but I think he could help them. I'm trying to think who else. Pelicans, Kings. I wouldn't put too much faith in the Clippers, even though they still have Kawhi Leonard, James Harden. Lakers, they got to make a move if they want to do anything. I think that has the Lakers have potential to be a real disaster. They could be okay, but they have potential to be a real disaster with first-year coach and JJ Redick, who's already seems a little overwhelmed. And, you know, LeBron's not going to carry you to a championship anymore. He could get you close, but he's not going to put you over the top, as we've seen the last 3 years. And he's not getting any younger. I mean, he's going to be 40. And he's probably, I'm sure he's the best 39, 40-year-old in league history. Maybe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is up there. Jordan is up there. But Karl Malone might be up there too. But I think LeBron, you know, that Lakers team's just not. It's like they don't want to win the championship. They just want to get all the buzz and notoriety and be popular, which they're going to be anyway because they're the Lakers. But I just don't know what they're doing there. Don't know what they're doing. And I don't think they're going anywhere. Golden State Warriors, great run. Your time is up. So is my time without having a sip of coffee is also up. Okay, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Training camp. Talk to the players every day. Garland. I saw Sam Merrill at Media Day. Well, I saw everybody at Media Day, but I talked with Sam briefly, and here's what I had to say. I said, congratulations on being the second best Sam in the building. And he said, oh, is that right? And I said, you know, yeah. And he said, well, I take it you're the first. And I said, yeah. And you know what? You don't need to be ashamed of being second because there's someone in the PR department whose name is Sam that works for the Cavs too. A wonderful guy, Sam Coombs. And I said, you're ahead of him. I told Sam Merrill, you're ahead of that Sam. So you're the second Sam in the building. And he laughed and shook his head and said, well, I guess I have something to shoot for this season. And that inspired me to say, you know what, I've got to do my part to stay ahead of Sam Merrill as the best Sam in the Cavs building. And that's probably the biggest news I have from training camp is the quest to be the number one Sam. What was the other part I was going to tell you? Okay, so I've talked to, Kenny Atkinson's available every day. Players are available every day. Isaac Okoro I've talked to, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. Who else has been out there to talk to? Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and to a man, and Max Strus. To a man, these guys have said, it's kind of refreshing that we're moving the basketball. We're not allowed to just stand around. Isaac Okoro really probably spoke the most volumes about what's going on in camp when he said, we're not, my job is no longer to just go stand there in the corner and watch. And I don't know that he was taking a shot at the previous regime, JB Bickerstaff, but he said, I'm supposed to be moving and cutting and passing, and I'm not just standing there in the corner as kind of a decoy waiting to shoot a three. And I think I think that's what Kenny Atkinson is bringing. Darius Garland kind of said, look, we've been playing a lot of pick and roll, almost primarily pick and roll, and he didn't say this, but frankly, some ISO ball over the last 3 years. Now, there are times you're going to still need ISO basketball. When you have a star like Donovan Mitchell and nothing else is working, you get the ball Donovan Mitchell and get out of the way. But you can't do that the whole game. And I think that's kind of what Donovan Mitchell, he didn't even like that. When Garland was out and Evan Mobley was out, and they won, 18 of 20 there during January, late December, January, and the Cavs did that. The ball was moving. Mitchell was playing point, and Garland has said, I thought at that time when Garland came back, I thought run him at the 2 a little bit, let Mitchell continue to handle the ball, maybe not full time, but enough because it's really working. Mitchell was getting, career high assist numbers. The ball was moving. Cavs were winning. They brought Garland back. They moved Mitchell back over to 2 guard, and Garland was a primary ball handler. What Garland said at practice, Mitchell and I are going to be mixing it up. I'll be moving to off the ball. And I thought, it doesn't take a genius to see that's what should have happened last year. And now the Cavs are doing it. So I think that there's a lot of promise if this team, look, Kenny Atkinson got this job so that he could take Garland coming off a really rocky season, get that fixed, take him to another level. Take Evan Mobley to another level offensively. And Mobley talked about, I'm going to be more also along with, trying to score more. So far, the idea is to get the ball in my hands more and have me help facilitate, which is great because Evan Mobley is a great passer. I looked, and you think about Garland, obviously Mitchell, Mobley, Max Strus, Karis LeVert, some of these other offensive weapons. I'm leaving Jared Allen out, but obviously he's a double-double machine. He's going to get you at least 10 points and 10 rebounds, right? So I'll throw Jared Allen in there. If you get creative, I'll throw Sam Merrill in there too. There's no reason. This team was 20th in a 30-team NBA last season in scoring. Can't be that way. Can't be that way because the Cavs are, they were top 5 or 6 defensively. That's not going to be a problem. But I think their defense is still going to be elite. They probably have the most elite, staunchest defensive front court in the NBA with Allen and Mobley. And I thought the Timberwolves gave them a run for their money with Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, but Towns now is in New York. So Cavs may have the most elite defensive front court in the NBA. Certainly 2 of the very best, at least 2 of the very best rim protectors in the NBA on the floor together. Defense is not going to be a problem. They're still working on it. They opened camp with defense. Kenny Atkinson is known as an offensive guy, a guy who's going to create points and create opportunities. But they opened camp with defense. The first practice was like all defense. I almost feel like Kenny Atkinson wanted to get out of the way. Okay, here's what we need to know. Now let's focus on the fun stuff. But the offense is where everybody's singing the praises. The ball is moving. Bodies are moving. It's not pick and roll. There's going to be some, but that's not all the offense. Garland is going to be moving over to the 2, not full time, not to start the game, but plenty. As far as other things from camp, so I think that's the exciting part. It's like if the Cavs are going to contend, and they truly believe they are, clearly ESPN has them finishing second in the East, which I know people are like, well, what's ESPN know? I get all my NBA information from HoopsWire, and I have them 4th in the East. So, there's still high expectations. I've seen people have them as low as 7th. And really, when you talk about, well, let me get back to my original thought about training camp. I think that when everybody to a man is saying that the ball is moving and that things are fresh, and I think that being the consensus is good news. So if the Cavs are going to contend, they're going to need to play better offensively than they did last year. Last year, I heard a lot of times, well, scoring points isn't the issue. It's our defense. And I'm like, I don't know. You're 20th in the 30-team league in scoring. You're 5th in defense. To me, that doesn't seem like defense is the issue. It seems like they lacked creativity offensively, and that's why Kenny Atkinson got the job. To help them go to another level offensively. And I'm not taking shots at JB Bickerstaff. I think a lot of things he did were very good. I just think this is the NBA, having covered it for, as I always say, 117 years. I just think players need a new voice, a fresh voice after 4 or 5 years. Not always. San Antonio, Greg Popovich has been there almost as long as I've been covering the league. He actually got there before I started in San Antonio. Popovich is who he is. He outlasts the players. So I think that, he is a legend there. He's going to be, I guess this is a long-winded way of saying not all the time do players need a fresh voice after 4 or 5 years. But you got Popovich, you got Eric Spoelstra, you got Steve Kerr. Those are the longest tenured guys, and Kerr's now a decade. This is his 10th year. JB Bickerstaff had been with the Cavs 5.5 years as far as a head coach. And that's a long time in the NBA. You wonder if Kenny Atkinson can last that long. Theoretically, you hope that he turns into the next Popovich. You're always looking for the next Popovich or the next Eric Spoelstra. And Kenny Atkinson, coming from the Warriors, he's really instituted a lot of that kind of philosophy of pass, cut. He says he's a totally different coach than he was with the Brooklyn Nets. And I believe him. After 2 years with the Warriors, I believe him. You know why? Because Mike Brown, now the coach of the Sacramento Kings, who are one of the highest scoring teams in the NBA, and could be an absolute sleeper out west. He's a totally different coach than he was when he went to Golden State. Remember with the Cavs? I remember I covered Mike Brown twice with the Cavs. And he always used to say, the uglier the game, the better. I love ugly basketball. And boy, did he ever. Well, guess what? He went to Golden State for a couple of years, took in that offense, and now he's the opposite of ugly basketball. The ball moves, players move, the Kings score in bundles. So I think that's where the Cavs were lacking last year. And I think that's why people think that, yes, even though all these other rosters are wonderful, the Cavs can compete and contend. And I think that's a reason the Cavs think that, because they have bodies moving, ball moving, talent. So much of this is going to come down to health. Who's able to stay on the floor? That goes for everybody, because the race is going to be so tight that if you're missing a star player for 2 or 3 games, you're probably toast. And this is just a regular season game. You know, you got to break your guys out for a Tuesday night home game against the Portland Trailblazers. You got to bring them all out. Can't rest. There's no rest, because you may lose the 4th playoff seed. You lose that game, all of a sudden you're 5th in the playoffs. One game can cost you home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. That's how tight the NBA race has become now. And if you're the 5th seed instead of the 4th, it comes down to a game 7 like the Cavs did last year, they would have got blown out in Orlando. They almost got blown out at home, but because they had that game 7 at home, they overcame an 18-point deficit. So you want to get the highest seed that you can. There's no more, and that's what the NBA has sought to do. Make all 82 games pretty important. There, look, I've been around the NBA a long time, and there were guys who would just admit, yeah, we got the lousy, say, Portland Trailblazers. They're the worst team I could think of. Washington Wizards. We got them on Wednesday night. After, and between then we've got the Celtics, the Wizards, hypothetical here. Celtics, Wizards, Lakers. So guess what game we're probably going to take it easy? Maybe get our guys a rest, come up with an injury. He needs a rest game. Yeah, his back's bothering him. So take the Wizards game off. Then the Wizards beat you. Then you get down to the end of the season, and you have 44 wins, and the Orlando Magic have 46 or 45. And you're all of a sudden 5th seed. They're the 4th. You could be out of the playoffs in the first round. It's not why you went out and hired a new coach. So I'm using the Cavs as an example, but most teams are thinking this way now. Can't afford to have guys take nights off. Certainly not our best guys. Can't do it anymore because things are too tight. It could be the difference between finishing with the number 1 seed in the conference and the number 2. So I think the Cavs are in a good spot heading into the season. I really do. I know, look, I don't know about the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know about Paul George. Is he going to fit there? I do like the other pieces. I mean, I like Paul George, and I like the pieces that the Sixers got. Joel Embiid, how often does he stay healthy for a whole year? I don't know. I have major doubts about the Sixers, which I think their offseason was great. I think going out and getting Paul George and Caleb Martin and guys who have been there before, and Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson. Those are all veteran guys. They're well-rounded. They're deep on paper. I don't know how it's going to play out on the court. Really don't. So, I could say that probably a little bit about the Cavs too. How's it going to play out? How's it, but at least I know when the Cavs are bad, they still win 48 to 50 games. I shouldn't say when they're bad, when they're not playing up to what everybody's expectations are. The past 2 years, they've won 48 or 50 games. So they've got their whole cast back. Yeah, the rest of the East has gotten a little bit better theoretically. Everybody's gotten better at this time of year. So when you go out and play actual games, regular season games, you get into December and January and February. That's when we find out who's great. We're fans. We're reactionary. Media. I'm media. Reactionary. We get so worried. And it's like, you know what? It's October. Got 9 more months of this, thank heavens. Now Sam Amico has a little bit of energy finally again. So, anyway, I'm always happy to take your questions, by the way. samamico@gmail.com. I try to respond to everybody. I definitely read them all if I can't respond. As long as they're nice, I'll respond. And if it's about the NBA. So with that, I guess we can wrap this up. There's been just so much. The Cavs are coming on here soon. Their press conference. If you're watching this live, if you are watching this live, I just want to say obviously I'm doing the Amico Hoops podcast now, which you can just find on iTunes or Spotify. Just type in Amico Hoops. I'm glad that that's what they decided to name the podcast, because my website used to be named Amico Hoops and I missed that name. We decided to change it to Hoops Wire, I guess 3 years ago now, which I love that too. But when it was called Amico Hoops, I didn't like it. And now I like it. It's one of those things that's now nostalgic. I'm so old. I have so many things that are nostalgic. But, we have the Amico Hoops podcast, obviously hoopswire.com, covering a ton of stuff on that. And then if you're watching this live, I wanted to say I'm very excited to be on the CVCA football live stream halftime tonight. I went to CVCA graduate in the game against Fairless. Friday night is homecoming. It's alumni night. And I've been to the last 3 or 4 alumni nights at CVCA and really have a great time catching up with everybody. So I'm really excited to be a halftime guest on the live stream. You know what's so funny? Obviously, I've been on Fox Sports television. I've been on NBA TV. I've been on ESPN Radio, national ESPN Radio, CBS Sports. I've been on all these channels and TV channels, national. Yet everyone who knows about the CVCA live stream is way more excited about that for me. I told my mom, yeah, but when I went on NBA TV 3 or 4 times, I tell her, I'm making another NBA TV appearance tonight. Oh, okay, honey. Today, going on the CVCA live stream, she's acting like I'm the most popular person in the world. And she's not alone. All my friends are too. They're like, wow, that's so cool. I'm like, and you know what? It is really cool. It is cool to me because I went to school there, and I think it's neat that somebody remembers people such as myself who did our homework on chisel and granite. But so I'm very excited about that, very grateful to have been asked to do that, and I look forward to seeing a lot of alumni. Yep, I still see them and hang out with them on Saturday nights. A lot of my classmates, not every Saturday, but a lot of Saturdays we'll get together, play cards. I usually lose, and we have a great meal and a great time. So anyway, there's a lot more to cover with the Cavaliers. Next time I come to you, they will have played 2 preseason games. At least next time I come to you here on 330 to go, which I'm so thankful and grateful to be a part of. And I think I'm getting a little too sappy today. I'm usually a big goofball. I don't know what's going on. Just haven't had enough coffee, I guess. But I promise to change that up. I'll be a big goofball again next week. But they'll have played 2 preseason games, and I know, it's going to be overreactionary. Hey, they didn't look real sharp, or hey, this didn't go well. But, I mean, the starters aren't going to play that long, maybe a quarter and a half. And then we get a look at the guys who probably aren't going to make the team, but are going to be candidates for the G League or will be end of the bench guys. You don't want to they're going to play more than the Browns play the regulars in the preseason, but not a ton those first couple of games. And then I think like game 3, I think they have 4 preseason games. Game 3, the Cavs will break out everybody, have them play for 3 quarters or whatever, and then game 4 will probably be like last chance saloon for these guys who are trying to make the roster or earn some minutes. So probably won't be many regulars playing. So you get a taste of it. You get a taste of it in the preseason. But I can tell you in practice, everybody's really excited about the changes that are being made, not just by Kenny Atkinson, but there's good vibes after everybody signed these contract extensions. Donovan Mitchell's great line was at media day was, it's nice to have a media day where everybody's not talking about where I'm going next because I'm locked in here. So Donovan Mitchell locked in for another 3 years. He's got this year, then the extension kicks in next season, and that's 2 years. So he's locked in for 3. I see a lot of people saying, oh, he's only locked in for 2 years. No, he was already under contract for this season. So he's got 2 more after this season with a player option for a 4th. So, and I'm sure that player option is, with the new CBA, he's not going to be able to make any more money anywhere else. So I think a lot of it determines on how it goes. But right now, everybody is locked in and refreshed and singing the praises of their new coach. So we will see how it goes with the Cavaliers. I'm excited to see what happens with the Guardians. I still think if the Browns can win this week, they're in that race, but I don't see them. Do you see any reasons for hope? Great hope? We won't end it on that. We'll end it on the Guardians are in the playoffs and the Cavs are going to be back there too. And those are reasons for excitement. So now that I've taken 40 minutes of your time, thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you next week. See you then.